assassination of Mujib in 1975 and its aftermath. On August 15, 1975, President Mujibur Rahman and his family were assassinated at home as part of a military coup. One of Mujibur Rahman's cabinet ministers and a leading conspirator Kondakar Mushtaq Ahmad gained the presidency, and following the removal of Major General K.M. Shafullah, appointed Ziaur Rahman army chief. However, the coup of August 15 caused a period of instability and unrest in Bangladesh and in the ranks and files of the army. Brigadier Khaled Musharraf in the 46th Brigade of Dhaka Cantonment under Colonel Shafat Jamal staged a counter-coup on November 3, 1975, and Ziaur Rahman was forced to relinquish his post and put under house arrest. This was followed by, on November 7, a mutiny staged by the Jatiyo Samajtantrik Dal under retired Lieutenant Colonel Abu Taya and a group of socialist military officers. Khaled Musharraf was killed and Colonel Jamal arrested, while Ziaur Rahman was freed by the 2nd Artillery Regiment under Lieutenant Colonel Rashid and reappointed him as Army Chief. Following a meeting at Army headquarters, an interim government was formed with Justice Abu Sadat Muhammad Sayum as Chief Martial Law Administrator and Major General Ziaur Rahman, Air Vice Marshal M.G. Taub and Rear Admiral M.H. Khan as his deputies. However, discipline in the army had totally collapsed and it was difficult to disarm the soldiers and put them back to the barracks. Suspicious that Abu Taya would organize a revolt, Zia ordered his arrest and Taya was executed on July 21, 1976. Zia became the Chief Martial Law Administrator following Justice Sayum's elevation to the presidency on November 19, 1976. He tried to integrate the armed forces, giving repatriates a status appropriate to their qualifications and seniority. While this angered some veterans of the Independence War, who had rapidly reached high positions following independence in 1971, Zia sent discontented officers on diplomatic missions abroad to diffuse unrest. President of Bangladesh. Ziaur Rahman became the 7th President of Bangladesh on April 21, 1977. Years of disorder from the previous political administration of the Awami League and Baxil had left most of Bangladesh's state institutions in disarray, with constant internal and external threats. Assuming full control of the state, Zia lifted martial law and introduced massive reforms for the development of the country. In late September 1977, a group of Japanese Red Army terrorists hijacked an airplane and forced it to land in Dhaka. On September 30, while the attention of the government was riveted on this event, a mutiny broke out in Bogra. Although the mutiny was quickly quelled on the night of October 2, a second mutiny started in Dhaka, led by disgruntled airmen of BAF. The mutineers unsuccessfully attacked Zia's residence, captured Dhaka radio for a short time and killed a good number of Air Force officers and airmen at Tegane International Airport, where they were gathered for negotiations with the hijackers. Wing Commander M. Hamidullah Khan BP, then BAF Ground Defense Commander, quickly put down the rebellion within the Air Force, but the government was severely shaken. Chief of Air Staff AVM AG Mahmud reappointed Wing Commander Hamidullah as Provost Marshal of Bangladesh Air Force. Government intelligence had failed and Zia promptly dismissed the DGFI chief, AVM Aminul Islam Khan BAF, of 9th GD formerly of PAF, and also the DGNSI. In the aftermath, at least 200 soldiers involved in the coup attempt were executed following a secret trial, prompting some critics to call Zia ruthless. The size of Bangladesh police forces was doubled and the number of soldiers of the army increased from 50,000 to 90,000. In 1978 he appointed Hussain Muhammad Ershad as the new Chief of Army Staff, promoting him to the rank of Lieutenant General. He was viewed as a professional soldier with no political aspirations who possessed a soft corner for India. Quietly Ershad rose to become Zia's close politico-military counselor. In 1981 he brought back Mujib's daughter Hasina Nawaz to Bangladesh. Elections Zia reintroduced multi-party politics in 1978, General Zia ran for and overwhelmingly won a 5-year term as president. The next year elections were held for the National Assembly. Opponents questioned the integrity of the elections. He allowed Sheikh Hasina, the exiled daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to return to Bangladesh in 1981. equals domestic and foreign policies equals, on taking power, Zia was hailed as the strict leader that struggling nation needed. Bangladesh suffered from illiteracy, severe poverty, chronic unemployment, shortages and economic stagnation. Zia reversed course from his predecessor Mujib's secular, democratic socialist, pro-Indian policies. Zia announced a 19-point program of economic emancipation which emphasized self-reliance, rural development, decentralization, free markets and population control. Zia spent much of his time traveling throughout the country, preaching the politics of hope, and urging Bangladeshis to work harder and to produce more. He held cabinet meetings all across Bangladesh. Zia focused on boosting agricultural and industrial production, especially in food and grains, and to integrate rural development through a variety of programs, of which population planning was the most important. He introduced and opened the Bangladesh Jute and Rice Research Institutes. He launched an ambitious rural development program in 1977, which included a highly visible and popular food for work program. He promoted private sector development, exports growth and the reversing of the collectivization of farms. His government reduced quotas and restrictions on agriculture and industrial activities. Zia launched major projects to construct irrigation canals, power stations, dams, roads and other public works. Directing his campaign to mobilize rural support and development, Zia established Gram Saka system of self-government and the Village Defense Party system of security and crime prevention. Programs to promote primary and adult education on a mass scale were initiated and focused mainly across rural Bangladesh. During this period, Bangladesh's economy achieved fast economic and industrial growth. Zia began reorienting Bangladesh's foreign policy, addressing the concerns of the mostly staunch rightists coupled with some renegade leftists who believed that Bangladesh was reliant on Indian economic and military aid. Zia moved away from India and the Soviet bloc, his predecessors had worked with, developing closer relations with the United States and Western Europe, Africa and the Middle East. Zia also moved to harmonize ties with Saudi Arabia and the People's Republic of China, Pakistan's ally who had opposed Bangladesh's creation and had not recognized it until 1975. Zia moved to normalize relations with Pakistan. While distancing Bangladesh from India, Zia sought to improve ties with other Islamic nations. Zia's move towards Islamic State policies improved the nation's standing in the Middle East. Zia also proposed an organization of the nations of South Asia to bolster economic and political cooperation at a regional level. This proposal materialized in 1985 under the presidency of Hussein Mohammad Ershad with the first meeting of the South Asia Association for Regional Cooperation in Dhaka. Zia's vision has earned him a posthumous award from the organization. Islam and nationalism Zia believed that a massive section of the population was suffering from an identity crisis, both religious and as a people, with a very limited sense of sovereignty. To remedy this he began a re-Islamization of Bangladesh. He issued a proclamation order amending the constitution, under whose basis laws would be set in an effort to increase the self-knowledge of religion and nation. In the preamble, he inserted the salutation Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. In Article 8(1) and 8(1)(a), the statement absolute trust and faith in Almighty Allah was added, replacing the socialist religious free commitment to secularism. Socialism was redefined as economic and social justice under his leadership. In Article 25(2), Zia introduced the principle that the state shall endeavor to consolidate, preserve and strengthen fraternal relations among Muslim countries based on Islamic solidarity. Some intellectuals accuse Zia of the nature of the republic from the secularism laid out by Sheikh Mujib and his supporters. However, critics of this accusation say the rationale is absurd and an oversimplification since secular leaders like Gamal Abdel Nasser and Ahmed Ben Bella adopted this policy, and that religious slogans and symbolism are also used by the Awami League. Later Ershad introduced Islamic religious education as a compulsory subject in Bangladeshi schools, with provisions for non-Muslim students to learn of their own religions. At the birth of Bangladesh, Many Islamists had supported the Pakistani Army's fight against independence and been barred from politics with the Bangladesh Collaborators Order of 1972. Zia undid this as well as the ban on communal parties and associations.